Hello and welcome to this video. On this transmission, we are talking about twin flame connections, what resembles the twin flame connection actually, to decipher a bit what is the real sweet twin flame connection, as I call it sacred flames or sacred partners, and what is the twin flame connection that is generally believed to be, because many see it energetically as any type of connection could be a twin flame connection, and this is kind of true in some ways, but let's decipher things and separate what is a twin flame connection in a loving way about couples, about love partners, and what is a twin flame connection with what others perceive it as twin flame connection, because they say that any kind of role can be attached to that label energetically, and this is not what I have experienced. This is not how I see it. There was always a resistance in a way, like this is not true. Not exactly resistance, but feeling that something is not exactly true with what I was reading or watching on videos from other channelers. And of course I asked for clarification from my higher self, from my guides, and I received it in experiences, which is nice to have, and it makes it actually more clear and more easy to decipher what is what. So we can see that friends can be twin flames, mother-daughter, mother-son, colleagues, random people you meet in your life can play the role of the twin flame connection, and that is not exactly the truth. So when you are in life with your twin flame, the love partner twin flame, the sacred flame, and let me keep that terminology because it makes it easier for me to keep my focus on what is energetically going on and what I need to be explaining. So the sacred flame for me is a love partner, that their frequency resembles yours a lot in many ways, and you are meant to be, supposedly meant to be together in this lifetime, because collectively we are bringing down a different sort of vibration when it comes to love. Leaving that aside, let's go to any other connection that can resemble the twin flame. Now, when they say it can be between a parent and a child, when they say this relationship can exist between colleagues, boss and employee, and so on and so forth, how this goes, or even with friends, because I've had that as a huge experience. When you are already on the sacred flame journey in your life and other lifetimes, you're gonna be meeting up with those souls that you have some sort of resemblance energetically, some sort of alignment. And it feels very familiar because we've played many different roles in many lifetimes, and it feels as this is home, okay? It is very intense, absolutely true, and you have a lot of learning to do through that connection. So these connections, what they have in common with the sacred flames is the intensity, the remembrance of the connection, of the soul connection, plus the chasing and running dynamic that we have in sacred flames. And this is going on because of the intensity, because of the familiarity, because sometimes we have to figure out how to stay there, how to be present for ourselves and for the other party involved. So recognizing that you are already in the sacred flame journey, which means about enlightenment, because the twin flame journey, the sacred flame journey, is just about enlightenment. The byproduct of that enlightenment is the union, the physical union of the twin flames, sacred flames, as I prefer calling them, because that helps me detach from the collective of twin flames, because there are many beliefs that are completely wrong in that space. So this is why I need to be detaching from that space by calling this connection as sacred flames. So when you are already in that space of growth, of personal growth, of soul evolution, of awakening to your true essence and your true potential, bringing that into life, embracing your shadows, embracing who you are, who you have been, who you are becoming, the choices that you have made in this lifetime and others as well, because some of the choices we have from other lifetimes still follow us in this in order to make different choices. This is how we actually awaken to any other potential twin flame connections around us. Because it is a process of learning, unlearning, becoming, unbecoming, and again becoming, and again unbecoming, which is the whole basis of evolution and enlightenment. The level of enlightenment has to do with how to be in full connection with your higher self, how to have embraced your shadow self, how to keep evolving and changing and finding that space of peace and love in many ways, and following your purposes, which that comes because of the alignment with the higher self. Now, when it comes to twin flame connections that can be in our lives, like with a parent, for example, with a colleague, with a friend, this comes because inevitably we have that soul recognition, the feeling of home, this is home, the familiar sense that I know this person a lot for a long time. And because we have a lot of learning to do, and it goes down to the learning, and this is why the intensity, this is why the running and chasing game, and believe me, I have felt it with friends in a huge way that are also twin flames, sacred flames, in their own ways, in their own connections. So that intensity comes because we pay a lot of growth very fast, in a very uncomfortable way, and this is what it is about. So I wanted to start detaching from the collective about twin flames. I wanted to start recognizing when we play out the pattern of a twin flame, of what is perceived as a twin flame connection. I wanted to start understanding that this is just part of your journey, this is just part of who you are. Understanding your intense emotions, your intense reactions, how these are created, how these are manifested in your connections with others, because the more you do reflection on these aspects of yours, the easier the integration comes to be. So our shadows is not something we have to remove from ourselves, it is something we have to integrate. Usually through healing we try to remove something from us, energetically speaking, physically speaking, emotionally, mentally, and it's not about that. It's about bringing a shadow into the light, understanding it, accepting it, and integrating it to our own system. This is all it is, and this is the ascension path, the enlightenment path. So when you are inevitably in the path of a sacred flame, you inevitably have many connections, twin flame connections in your reality, where you have to pay your growth to find that balance within you and with them, to create that balance for yourself by choice. This is what consciousness, expanded consciousness is about. We make choices that are in alignment with us, that offer us wisdom and a better quality of life. And at the same time, not every connection is a twin flame connection. They have that resemblance because you are in that space, because you are in that path. You've chosen that as a soul. There's a huge integration that is taking place. So all these mirrors, in air quotes, that are outside of you, in the context of a twin flame connection, and I'm laughing with that because it's not exactly twin flame. Every connection that is very intense, that we want to run away from it or to chase it, it doesn't mean it is a real twin flame connection. And a real, I mean it with the terminology of a sacred flame. So, recognizing these patterns we play out over and over again is a huge help and support for us to integrate who we are and come closer to that that we call ascension process and enlightenment. Not every twin flame, sacred flame on this planet that exists at this point of time will come into union, and that is a conversation I've had with Dolores Cannon for over a year now. I think it's almost 2 years. And 1.5, as he corrects me. Because they are not ready, we are not ready. We are playing out the simulation of how to bring down on this planet, how to ground this unconditional love and this kind of frequency that doesn't exist easily on this planet, and many of us are stepping into that. For a while we are getting out of it and we are stepping again into that, and a whole lot of training behind that. Those that perceive themselves that have already been in that union of sacred flames, Ieros Gamos, and this is Greek, but it is exactly like that, written in English, Ieros, Hieros, Gamos, if that helps a bit better, which is sacred union, sacred wedding, sacred union. They haven't come into that yet. None of the sacred flames has come yet into union, and that is something that might be difficult for many to hear, but this is where we come into union in this lifetime. From now on, from 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, there will be many sacred flames coming into union. They have been in the past together, but without having grounded, in the past I mean in other lifetimes, they haven't grounded fully that energy of the sacred union. They didn't have that connectivity or even that energy, that frequency that we have now. There's a difference in that. Now we have more light in our energy, we have more expanded awareness and consciousness, and this is why it makes it more challenging for us to come together, because we are working through a lot of shadows and a lot of conditioning, and have in mind that there's no space, there's no time. So every kind of difficulty we have faced in a past life, it is still happening because it's not actually a past life. It is another life in another point of time and space, if you wish, yes, but we are all connected through this simulation that we are all experiencing now, and this has to do with all the difficulties at the same time, at the same point of time, being experienced fully and needed to be integrated as much as possible. So, take it as it is. You are working on one direction, which isn't the union. The direction is the enlightenment. And every sacred flame connection has one major task. One major task that has to do with integration and self-acceptance, which leads to self-love, which leads to unconditional love, which leads to the union with the twin flame, the sacred flame. We want and we need and we feel into the sacred flames because it feels like home, because it feels like full acceptance. All of these are leading to separation, because this is the only space that we can fully integrate and ground within our own being this feeling of home, this feeling of desire, this feeling of self-acceptance and self-acknowledgement in many ways. So the space of separation is kind of sacred in so many ways, which is extremely helpful for our change and enlightenment. Focus on that, keep focusing on that. Everything else becomes a byproduct, even in your desires, in your mind. Everything that is fear-based needs to be integrated as energy, and this is the space where we are working towards the integration of our own fears. Someone is interfering with my energy, apologies for that. So know that the more of yourself that you integrate, either it is a fear, a doubt, a worry, either it is the unknown, feeling in the flow of things of life, being in the space of being okay with the unknown, being in the space of collapsing everything and feeling okay with that, breaking down everything and feeling okay with that. This is the kind of path we are stepping into when we are coming closer to the personal enlightenment, because I'll say it again and I'll become boring, I know that, but this is the point of the Sacred Flames journey. It's not about the union. The union is the byproduct of the work you have paid as a soul, as a being, the shadows you have integrated, and there comes a point where you don't feel the need and the desire, the pull and the push. You don't feel that I lack of something, that there comes a point that you are okay, literally content within yourself, regardless if there is gonna be a physical union or not. And this is where you start understanding that, yes, it is okay. This is the phase of enlightenment you are entering in now. And even all the connections we were talking about at the beginning of this recording, that they resemble the twin flame connection, are coming into a balanced way of being. If you have a challenging parent, if you have a challenging child, if you have a challenging colleague, or however you may have experienced the twin flame intensity in other representations in your life, you are coming into a good space with them, and you start grounding that stability and that balance within the connection, within yourself, most importantly, because whatever you do it for yourself, and this is how it actually manifests outside of you in your physical, in your other connections, meaning the connections with other people. And the more it shows up as a beautiful, stable way, a peaceful way of being within self, of speaking about your fears, about communicating yourself with authenticity and integrity, this is actually the space you realize that the union is really close, because you are stepping into the enlightened version of yours. I'm channeling a different energy than Dolores Cannon at this point, and you may have felt the change in my voice and anything else you may have noticed, but this is what it is when it comes to these different connections and types of connections. And I wanted to clarify these things because I did another video about talking about karmic twins, talking about soulmates, kindred spirits, and twin flames, sacred flames, and I saw some comments below of what is what, that they didn't really understand what is it exactly that I'm trying to share. So I'm clarifying things a bit in that aspect so we can fully integrate the frequency and what is going on energetically. Now, about the karmic twins that I haven't spoken about at all in this recording, have a resemblance with your divine feminine or divine masculine, depending on what you are representing in this lifetime, and that is not gender specific. These are huge activators that come into our lives to shake us in every aspect of our being, awaken us, and at the same time, because they are karmic twins, in a huge, nasty way, I can say easily, I had one of these encounters in my life as well, they help us play a lot of growth, but at the same time, they create also a lot of fears. that we may had either way later on if we were to encounter our sacred flame, but they are creating this base of work we have to play out, we have to do within ourselves in order to work on every aspect that may be hidden from our conscious or even subconscious mind. So any sort of fear that has been created through the karmic twin flame connection that has nothing to do with the roles I was talking about before. It is a person of the opposite sex that resembles their energy resembles a lot with your real, serious, sacred flame person. And they might be very similar in knowledge, they may be similar in characteristics, how they look like. They might be similar even in a way that it is actually scary in some ways, and this is why we have to work on an extra level of fears that has been created through that connection. They don't come only to activate us, they bring out a huge amount of fear that we may still hold on to. And even if possible, they create some fears that are not even there. And this is why it makes it harder, and it makes it actually a huge amount of extra work for us to do, because we are resolving any fear-based conditioning we may have on every level and layer of our own beings. And it's totally worth it, if you ask me. It's totally worth it because you embrace every shadow you may have about trust, about surrendering, about letting go, about understanding energy, about deciphering different energies, and in a huge way, in overall, about getting into a huge process of learning who you are, who you can become, who you have been, and integrate as many aspects of yours as possible. Now, I'm putting this to bed for the time being, but I need to actually step into the huge chapter of how much work is enough work when you want to meet and be in union. If you forget about the stage of enlightenment, if you forget about the personal growth you pay, how much work is enough work. And the Divine Feminine has made some decisions the last few months, how I have felt it myself, how I have seen it in others, the conversations that play out in an informal way, if you wish, tapping into the collective and checking different energies. This is what I figured out, this is what I feel is going on. The Divine Feminine has completely detached from the need and desire to have their Divine Masculine. They are in a space of, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of the back and forth. I've had enough of waiting, of anticipating, of being excited and then losing it all, starting from scratch. They've had enough of them trying to fix someone, which is, if you ask me, the most amazing thing of all. We got into that space and we were holding space for the Divine Masculine in a huge way. We are still holding the space for the Divine Masculine, but we are doing it organically at this point. We have made up our minds in some ways. We have made some decisions within ourselves that we are not someone's mother, we are not someone's sister, we are not their healer, we are not their guide. And this is quite important because the Divine Feminine has made a decision to step into their full power, into their full sovereignty. And by doing so, they are actually inviting the Divine Masculine to do the same. We can't come into that enlightenment stage of the twin flame connection if we don't allow ourselves to step into that sovereignty and respecting the other person's sovereignty. Because when you're showing up as their mother, as their sister, as their healer, as their guide, and let me be your home where you rest away from all your worries and stuff like that, we get into a space of not respecting their sovereignty, not respecting their power, trying to fix them, even indirectly. And we have stepped away from that space, which was extremely crucial and important for what we are grounding for ourselves and for them energetically. The divine feminine is the one who grounds the frequency spiritually wise, and through the divine feminine, the divine masculine gets to fully ground in the physical that kind of frequency. So if you are in a space of waiting, if you are in a space of I'm gonna fix you, just come to me, just let the union happen, that's not a good space. That is still fear-based, that you have to acknowledge that to yourself and figure out why you still want to fix someone, even if that is your divine masculine, and why you want to be their healer. And of course, if we take it from the other side now of the same coin, you will see that there is enough work that is done from the divine feminine, and you realize as divine feminine that there will still be work to be done, which is the enlightenment itself. There's no way a human being comes close to that phase of enlightenment without understanding that as long as you are alive, there will be a fixing space. There will be a fixing process, a healing process for yourself, and that can be happening very organically, very easy, in a smooth way. You won't have to be in a space of constantly trying to think, what do I fix now to myself? What do I want to improve? What do I want to correct within myself? This is again a very 3D, 4D perception kind of way. We are stepping into different dimensions of perception lately. So you realize as divine feminine that you've done a lot of work. Of course there will be more, and you're coming into a space of growth that you admit to yourself that yes, I am ready for everything. I want to invite everything in my life, and I will play it out accordingly. As it shows up, I will be in a space of either accommodating that or dissolving that or trying to find a different way of creating that. You will be figuring out on your own how things can be, will be at this point of time when something happens, and it will be easier to navigate instead of pushing through things, pushing through the connection. And this is what goes on in every aspect of the divine feminine. They go along with the flow of what comes and what goes, and to my understanding, there's a lot of healing that takes place while you are in the first stages of the sacred flame connection. There's a lot of healing that takes place in the separation, self-growth, soul growth, and there are different stages of healing and growth that take place in the first steps of the union, and even when the union is more mature. So it's not about constantly healing something, let me clarify this, and it's not about constantly fixing something, it's about what we are here to create. So when we get into a space of creating something, we're gonna have to take some steps back, we're gonna have to correct a couple of things, change something, and this is all it is. So if you're getting into a space of feeling I've had enough of all of this, and this is who I am, I'm creating my boundaries, I'm creating from the space of understanding that I'm always perfect and at the same time imperfect, so I'm calling in my own guidance, my own sight, seeing what is going on here and what I can change, like we are playing a game, literally. So we are seeing what we like, what we don't like, how we can build more, how we can create more, from what space, if we need to build up our energies a bit more before starting creating something. We are getting into a different space of understanding self, and with that self-awareness, it's easier to get into a space of co-creation with others. So I'm listening to something, this is why I take a minute. Someone says that co-creating with others when you are already in a sacred flame journey means that you are opening up to also receive your divine masculine, and at the same time you are learning more about yourself, of who you are, how to accept someone's point of view, how to integrate, what to integrate, how to say no, all of these simple things that sometimes they feel trivial, but the stronger and the more intense a connection is, imagine how it is between sacred flames, that kind of fire that can literally burn you up, completely burn you to ashes, down to ashes, or it can elevate you to the highest levels of consciousness. And this is why it is a choice. It is a choice for every couple, for every sacred flame couple. It is a choice that they have to consciously make at this lifetime. Either they are on the stage of preparing themselves for the next life, for the union to take place in the next life. So they have met, they are in touch, they are in communication, and there is a growth that is taking place separately and sometimes collectively. And at the same time, it is a choice if you want to fully go down the path of the union, because that has played out in a way that you are choosing your own personal enlightenment in every aspect of it. So with that, which is tricky and paradoxical, comes the detachment from the sacred flames. It comes in a way that you no longer care, you trust the process, you trust that things will play out for your highest good, and this is the most challenging to accept in some ways, in many ways actually. So if you are in that stage, sit down with yourself, reflect on why the attachment is still there, why the codependency is still there. Even if you are not in communication with your twin flame, it doesn't mean that you don't want it. Okay, it doesn't mean that the codependency link has been broken, to be more specific. But if you are in a space of acknowledging yourself that either it happens or not, it is okay, it is fine, it is perfect, I trust the process, I trust whatever is meant to be for me won't surpass me, I trust that whatever is there for me to take place in this lifetime for my highest good, my soul's evolution, it will happen, then you are fine, keep moving on, keep trusting the process, keep investing on yourself, and you will see things shifting. So, to wrap up a bit the things what I've shared with you, because it felt like a long recording, my intention was to start talking about what we perceive as twin flame connection and why does it come across in different relationships we share in our lives, between parents and children, between colleagues, between friends. But I got the push to go deep and explain a lot of things about twin flames that I haven't done for a while in my recordings. Please let me know in the comments how it feels like, how you experience it, what it is about that you feel that you are on a twin flame journey. You already know it, there is a deep knowing within yourself. And in what stage you are now, if you have experienced this resemblance on twin flame connections of different sorts in your life, and how was it for you, if it was difficult as a training process, if you're getting there, if you feel there's more. And have in mind that even if you choose to step back from a connection that resembles the twin flame connection a lot, universe, your higher self, is gonna bring someone else that is gonna play that role out for you, so you can pay the growth on a soul level that you are called to do in this lifetime. So don't try to escape anything. It won't work. Your higher self will be redirected to someone else that is ready to play out that role. If you choose again to step out completely from that connection, then you have chosen something different from the twin flame connection in overall, from the sacred flames connection. You have chosen a different life path, and that is perfect. That is amazing. Celebrate it. It's not that you are not ready enough. It's not that you're not good enough. It means that you chose something else, and that is completely acceptable. You are fulfilling your purposes one way or another just by existing. Your choices are solely made from you for you. And you have to remember that. Every choice you make is about your contentment, your joy, and how you wish this experience to look like, to feel like, to be like. And it's absolutely placed in a loving, caring way for you. And this is what you have to keep. If there's one thing to keep from this recording, this is it. And I hope you enjoyed today's transmission. A lot of energies were coming through, apart from Dolores Cannon that I gave her name that boldly. There were many others. One of them was one of my twin flame guides that is here to support me on this path, and not just those. Mary Magdalene as well, Jesus was also here, but there was no need for me to bring up their names as the transmission was taking place, I'm being told. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments where you are at which space. Understanding and embracing the fact that you have choices is another important thing to keep from this transmission. And the choices don't mean that you are going to be tortured or punished in any way or form, okay? They only mean that you choose what you chose for your well-being, and that is perfectly acceptable and fine. I love you. Please do reach out for a private session or anything that you would like to have by connecting with me. I'm doing psychic readings, past life regression, soul energetics, that I love calling this form of session, which is about conditioning, which is about transmutation and transformation in so many ways that there's no need to explain. If you feel drawn to any of these sessions, please do reach out through my website. You will find the link in the description box and also in my channel information. And it will be a pleasure to work with you, to connect with you, and let's keep in touch. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, if it clarified things for you, if I confused you even more. And I would love to do more of this if you are up to. Much love, Elena.